call my wife honey in English or sweetheart, I'll say nyaboke.
You should call her nyaboke.
I'm speaking to her heart.
Yes.
You can imagine. Any other culture, for example, we have to walk the talk. Enough is enough. We do a lot of talking. Africa is good in making policies. Africa is good coming up with policy frameworks. When it comes to actualizing, we miss out. Young people, we are different. Gen Zs, we work differently. You as a young African man and woman, the African nation,
So hello everyone, jambo kila mtu. Karibu kwenye hii episode ya UIP, yani mahali ambapo tunazungumzia mambo ya vijana Afrika kote na duniani. Lakini leo we have a very special episode that I'm not the only participant or only speaker. I have a very special person who will be discussing with us about Africa Week, Africa Day. We just came from a forum where we had our main guest speaker at the United States International University of Africa, Prof PLO Lumumba, had to speak with a number of young people just to speak to them on the history of Africa and many other things that we are going to break in this episode. It's a very special episode because it helps us think on how far Africa has gone, what Africa has achieved. And of course, as we break down every episode on what Professor PLO Lumumba was speaking about, we'll also be telling you many other sweeter things about Africa. What do you celebrate Africa about? Do you even know we are celebrating Africa Day on 25th May of every year? And of course, why are we celebrating this particular day? So that is what we will be dealing with in this particular episode. And welcome from wherever you're watching us from. Karibia. Hapa tuko Nairobi, Kenya. My name is Masaki Magana. Right, welcome and let's get into the gist of the matter. Karibia Bwana Kinjabi, lakini kabla mtazamaji hajajua jina lako, I think it's better you make a very brief introduction about yourself. I know a lot of things that you've achieved, a lot of things that you do, but I will not be doing justice if I make this introduction about you. So could you just tell us who you are, what you do, and what excites you about this discussion today?
I love the point where you're starting from. I need to introduce myself. My name is Kinjabi Kibigo, an educationist, communicologist, at the same time an African studies scholar, a graduate student who is taking studies in African issues. That's just brief introduction, and also Swahili guru. If you wish me to bring you back to African languages and indigenous languages, I am here for you. So mimi ni mwenyeji hapa.
Na nakujua sana kwa Kiswahili ambacho unachokizungumza.
Asante sana
Kiswahili ambacho mimi bana nimejaribu kujifunza na kamusi, hata ikiwa kwenye gari langu ama kwenye chumba changu. Sijawahi fikia bana. Kwani ulihitimu shahada ya Kiswahili ama ni vile unakienzi kama sisi sote Afrika tunavyokipenda Kiswahili?
Ni lugha ya Mwafrika na ni raha yangu kuona kwamba Waafrika wote wanakizamia na kukipenda Kiswahili popote walipo nje ya bara la Afrika, na hata hapa ndani ya bara kule Afrika Kusini, naona wengi wanakikumbatia. Kiswahili ni lugha yetu, sioni kwa nini tuwe na tashishi namna tunavyozungumza au kama tunakipenda. Kama unaipenda Afrika, basi huwezi kosa kuipenda Kiswahili pia.
Unapozungumzia Afrika,
naam,
hii ni wiki ambayo tunazidi kusherehekea mambo mengi ambayo labda Afrika imechukua hatua. Alright? We have Africa Day coming on 25th May in this year 2025, of course, but we celebrate this day every other year on 25th. What does really Africa mean to you? And some people say we are celebrating, others is a reminder of struggle. Is it even a call to action? And do really even people know that we are celebrating Africa Day on 25th May?
That's a beautiful question that you asked, just to know whether is it called for action, are we just celebrating, or we just remembering. The aspect right now, we're not here to remember only and also to celebrate only, because if you look back, what do we have to celebrate when we still depend on AIDS, and when we see our borders are not free, there are tariffs in trades, we are still struggling to be united. So to me, it's more of a call to action. Call to action that we need to change now and bring in more action rather than just, we've been calling, talking about, we need to do this, we need.
Yes.
Right now it's time for action. We need to
Yes.
be proactive as Africans.
Yes.
Yes.
Kinjabi, thank you for that. But then, as we keep on celebrating Africa, my question is, what are we celebrating? Do we even celebrate our languages? Do we celebrate our culture? Do we celebrate the steps that we've taken ever since independence, or ever since this OAU was started? Now, of course, currently African Union. Or what is it that we are really celebrating? I mean, I really get confused.
First of all, the first point of celebration is being an African.
Being an African.
Wherever you are, any part of the world, whether it's Asia,
Yes,
India,
yes.
talk of it.
So it's
Speak
not
of it.
it's not only an Africa celebrating Africa, but
Yes.
anybody else who loves Africa, who knows Africa,
Yes.
should be celebrating Africa too.
Yes.
All right.
And when we talk about Africa, we cannot talk about Africa without our culture and languages.
Mm-hmm.
These are our points of identity.
Yes.
And it will be also good to talk about, maybe we are not here just to celebrate, and also only to look at the rich, sweet history that we have as Africans during the colonial, pre-colonial, during the colonial period and post-colonial. Now we need to see what are the steps we've made since we said, we're independent nations.
Yes.
Are we still, talking about independency, or we are independent yet?
Mm-hmm.
In the real sense,
Mm-hmm.
is there something beautiful that young people can say, this is our continent, these are our countries, this is our language, this is our culture, this is our
Yes.
identity,
Yes.
and hold on to it?
So thank you for that. But do you think that the spirit of the spirit of African unity, let's talk of Ujamaa, let's talk of Ubuntu that we used to have in the past, is still the same thing that lives among every African, whether in Africa or in diaspora? Or has it been diluted?
I believe that, first of all, you just brought a very important concept, that the values that define an African, the values of Ujamaa,
Yes.
Ubuntu. I am because we are.
Yes.
But when we look at the situation, I think we are still, we are independent. However, we were colonized again with the political class, the elites. And the issue of Ubuntu and Ujamaa is still now a big challenge. It's unfortunate for what PLO is saying. Our leadership is very comfortable in the SUVs as they're passing through the slums, passing through the underdeveloped nations. They're flying to to some areas, but there is no development in this area. So when we talk about Ubuntu, it should be seen from our leaders. That our leader, I saw the other day, the president of Ghana, he went to the slums where people were being submerged with water, to go and say, yes, exactly.
Yes.
That's Ubuntu, showing that I am part of you. However, if we get just statistics from our institutions, but we don't have that touch with our leadership or our people, there's a gap. Ubuntu is just a word. Ujamaa, spirit of Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, Kabarange Nyerere, aliposema kwamba sisi wote ni wamoja na tunaishi kama watu walio sawia. When you look at that, look at our Eastern Africa community. Why is Uganda, for me to operate in Uganda, to go and teach in Makerere University, I need a work permit. Why should I get a permit to go and pass Swahili knowledge to my brothers and sisters in University of Dar es Salaam? Actually, there is a question mark whether Ujamaa is real. So even these organizations, regional organizations like East African Community, they're just there for the sake, not yet there.
Yes. It is very sad that in all the words that you've spoken, they have touched me in many different areas that I would want us to probably break down for the viewer to probably have a gist of what is happening in Africa. We speak about politics, we speak about economics, we speak about our socialism and many other aspects of how we live, how we eat, and how we do many things. How do we rekindle the trust and participation in political processes, right from educational institutions, even from our own homes? Talk about the curriculum, even in the education sector, and so on. How do we really bring this engagement so that in whatever we speak, we are not just preaching water and drinking wine later? We are not just hypocrites of many words, but we are able to action.
Thank you. When it comes to curriculum, you're speaking to things that are closer to my heart. Number one, the issue of curriculum for us to see these values you're talking about, African Ubuntu, to be embedded and mainstreamed in our curriculum, or maybe our education ecosystem, should start from foundational learning down there when our children are in school. It's sad that, you know, we push tunasukuma watoto wetu to speak wazungumze Kiingereza. They, you know, they take it as the first thing. If I speak English, then I'm learning it. But they've ignored about their culture.
And even actually, when somebody speaks English and not so fluent, we laugh at them.
Yes.
You know that happens?
I've seen it severally happening.
Is it something that really makes you happy? That
No, it's sad. Because one quote of a great education is known as Mwalimu Julius Nyerere says, education should not alienate the learner from his culture and traditions. However, our system is alienating us. We are more Eurocentric. The education is training us to be more focused on Euro, you know, foreign knowledge, foreign ideas, ideologies, and theories, rather than coming back to African knowledge and skills and build on them. So that's why we're talking about now our education should be contextualized to ensure that it's making the African culture to nourish and African knowledge to nourish and skills. And we'll be independent. People will no longer depend on other people. Just for instance, for example, for you to go and study in Paris, in France, you must learn French.
Yes, you must
for you
learn.
For you to be admitted in one university there.
Yes.
But how comes when you know, a French man
nationality comes to the country,
to Nairobi, University of Nairobi, wants to study here, we don't tell them to
even
study
not that.
Swahili.
The only thing that we teach them is at the airport.
Exactly.
Ujambo, hakuna matata. They are fine with that, and they will live well, and they will teach anywhere, and they will do anything elsewhere.
Sure.
But we have boundaries in Africa. I mean, this actually reminds me of one of the main authors, Ngugi wa Thiong'o, who is also a reference for many things that he speaks for Africa. And of course, we are very happy to be affiliated with him because he's a Kenyan.
Yes.
All right. Where he actually puts language as one of the major contributors to our unity.
Yes.
All right. And he says that Africa will only unite when we speak to each other in our own languages.
You're right.
Do you know how to speak my language?
Of course, my brother. Ekegusi. How can I be a Kenyan if I don't speak Ekegusi?
Yes.
How can I say I'm a Kenyan if I don't speak the Luo?
Yes.
How can I say I'm a Kenyan if I cannot understand what a Kikuyu is talking about Mount Kenya, Mlima Kenya? You see,
yes.
I've embraced African languages.
Yes.
And I say I'm multilingual because I can speak to my brothers in Kenya, whichever part of the country is.
Yes.
If it's Kalenjin, I'll say Yamune. If it's Luya, I'll say Mirembe. If it's Ekegusi, I'll say Wakire. All these things brings us together. But the unifying factor that brings us more closer is Swahili when we are speaking to each other. When you speak in my mother tongue, you're speaking to my heart.
Yes.
I'll understand because you're speaking to my heart.
Yes.
So Ngugi wa Thiong'o talking about language.
Yes.
Language is an enabler.
Yes.
It will enable that unity politically, economically, and even socio-culturally.
Yes.
Bring us together.
Yes.
In Western Africa, they have Hausa, Igbo, and Yoruba. But still you find French is more dominant in these countries. That if I want to speak to a Nigerian who, and I'm coming from, maybe I'm a Nigeria citizen, and I'm from Guinea, I'll go to French. Why not one common language like Swahili, like, for example, Yoruba, Hausa, Igbo? These are the languages that are strengthening our culture. They are rooted in our people, including that old man in the village will pass that knowledge to a young man, Gen Z and Gen Alpha. Thank you.
Oh, you're very much welcome. Now, please, just tease our mind, because I wanted to know the longest ever name that you know in any other tribe, or the best name that you would like to name, of course. And I think we should do that as a teaser. Right?
Sure.
You can mention any other name that you know in Africa, whether it's a river or whatever it is, and then.
Oh, thank you. I start with Adana. Adana from Nigeria, Igbo people. Adana means that link between the father and the daughter. That's how I relate with my daughter. Adana. And then you come to the likes when they use the name Nyawoki. Nyawoki means honey. Honey.
Asali.
I should not call my wife honey in English or sweetheart. I'll say Nyawoki.
Nyawoki.
I'm speaking to a heart.
Yes.
You can imagine. Any other culture, for example, you come to, you see Maragoli people, maybe a child was born on the road, they'll call him Nzira. and whoever was born next to a river.
Even in Kisii.
Nyanchira.
Yes.
And the one who was born next to the river is called Mogera. And in Ekigusi, you call him Ro or Roche. I see the beauty of our history. So as an African man, you cannot say, I love Africa, I'm doing African studies, and you cannot even acknowledge more than 6 Bantu languages within Africa.
Yes. Now we are in a digital era.
Yes.
And we have a number of digital platforms that are opening, new political spaces. I just want to probably hear from you. And as you heard Professor PLO Lumumba said that the time is now.
Yes.
You don't need to get old, because most of the leaders that we know were at the age of 20s.
Yes.
And they brought change, even courtesy of whatever they said that is coming to pass.
Yes.
Do you think that these are just political spaces for us to rumour-monger, have misinformation, misinforming ourselves and so on? Or do you think there are also echoes of any kind of information that we talk about? And do we really need to be alert on what kind of information we are having there, especially from the young people? And we can see everywhere in Kenya the other time, in other countries in West Africa and even North Africa and so on and so forth.
Beautiful. That's a very good question. In the era of digital, where everything is open, I want to take you to one medium, social media handle that our people, young people like it so much. We have got Snapchat and we have got TikTok. Today, if I want to learn Ishizulu or Zokta or Olosoto, I'll go to TikTok. Our young people are developing content there. Yes. Despite it being, a way of making, 2 ends meet, financial, still is a way, it's a heritage of passing our culture from one generation to the other. So TikTok should not be taken just, I know our young people like dancing there. Besides dancing, can we pass indigenous knowledge? Can we pass our language there? Can we make content in our own? Secondly, we need to be very careful. For Africa to harvest and get meaningful from digital, space, we ask ourselves, who owns the data that we are having in the digital?
That's a very good question.
Who owns that data?
Who has the servers?
Exactly.
Do we have servers there in Africa?
I don't know. Well, it seems, yes, we are generating this, and the same data will be used tomorrow, especially in the era of AI.
Yes.
It will be used to develop something to make money. Yet Africans who generate that data are here. So if you don't have control over our own data, then we don't have control over our history. Because it's the same way during the colonial period when we say that if a foreigner tells you a story, he'll tell from a different perspective. But if an African man tells his own story, he'll tell it the way it is. You get it, ikiwa mbichi. Yes. So the issue of data ownership, it's high time our universities, researchers, and even the governments come up with policies that they, to protect our, our data so that it doesn't go out.
So then, are you also mentioning one of the challenges that are holding Africa, digital economy and a lot of things to do with technology, innovation, and creativity, attributed to more of what you're saying? Or how is it the best way we can overcome such kind of challenges?
You see, today we are talking about reparations. Injustices that our people experienced during the colony, now we are on reparations, compensation of that.
Yes.
20 years from now, or 30 years to come, or 50 years from, we'll be talking about digital reparation. These are content that we heard, it went somewhere else, somebody else has used it. So what I'm trying to say is this. It's time we take it seriously. You see, yes, however much as we're using foreign technology, we need now to think, how do we innovate, become creative, have our own innovation, that we control the data that we're having. And also, how is it possible to ensure that this particular technology is doing more good to our society and African culture and African languages for the African people to benefit? Rather than we have it and then you find, for example, today you go to AI to generate any, to translate for you a document from English to Lesotho, maybe to Ishitswati. You'll find it will do it, but the person who did it, whoever owns the the rights of AI is the one benefiting. So it's high time we think about how do we localize this as we hold on this.
So I think probably also here you might want to engage the young people and probably discuss around the digital continental platforms. all right?
Yes.
And it's an area for us to probably give more weight in other episodes as we will be discussing. But of course, because it's just about Africa this week, just about Africa on 25th or May of this year, I would rather we also speak towards our education systems. How do we then enable and equip these young people with some good digital skills such that when they take images, when they speak, they're able to portray what Africa looks like? And you know, they just don't make fun of whatever that we have around us, our languages and so on, but they really feel and are happy about whatever they know about Africa.
The first thing that comes, it starts with the values that you are teaching them. First of all, you need to have I call it the software. Values, African ethics, African values.
Yes.
That is what you call
They
the
call
software.
them Afro-ethics.
Some
Afro-ethics,
others
yes.
speak
Speak about
They
Afro-ethics.
are guiding us.
Yes.
How do we conduct ourselves and present ourselves in presenting to international, global. Secondly, it comes now to the hardware. Hardware now comes in the use of that technology. Depends now, you know, if the software is okay.
Yes.
As one of my great friend called Joshua Mponga in South Africa and Zimbabwe says that if the software is right, the hardware will work well. But if the hardware is right and the software is wrong, we are missing it. So the same thing, education system is where we mainstream. We pass this knowledge through education.
Yes.
It's sad that you
Very
find
sad.
we in our history, we are learning much about history of Europe and history of France, and we forget about history of South Africa. For example, you ask a student, do you remember the Shaka Zulu War? They don't know.
Maji Maji Rebellion.
Maji Maji Rebellion. The
Mau
resistance. Mau
resistance.
Do they know Chimarenga War that was in Zambia or
Yes.
Zimbabwe? They don't know anything. So the issue is this: the time to use the digital forums to try and pass this knowledge and even come with animation of Shaka Zulu War. The Maji Maji Rebellion, the resisted, the Mau Mau. We need to come with animation so that our learners, or maybe our children, our Gen Z, our Gen Alpha, will know about our heroes, the fighters, and all where we are. In that tomorrow, they can speak to their generation about Africa.
Yes, and I think that is where Ali Mazrui, one of also very respectable Pan-Africanists, speaks of how we should be proud about our cultures, variety of cultures.
Yes.
All right, and he says that Africans must learn to be simultaneously proud of the variety of their cultures and aware of the need for a sense of common destiny. All right.
Yes.
We are talking about cultural diversity. We are talking about having a boundaryless.
Yes.
And actually, this sends us direct for us to listen to Professor PLO Lumumba's conversation, where he was saying that he dreams of a time when he will be traveling from Nairobi to Entebbe, Kampala, through to Bujumbura, Kigali, to Cape Town, through to Accra, Ghana, and elsewhere, and he will find that he has no requirement of such like a passport, or if there will be, then there will be an African passport. And then secondly, he also mentioned of the currency, which I would want you to speak about. I mean, I've gone to South Africa at some time, and they were not accepting Kenyan shillings. They told me I must have US dollars or any other foreign currency. I mean, I'm just still worried. In this 21st century, Punjabi?
Surely, one thing that is really touching me, first of all, I'll comment on Pan-African Ali Manzrui. May God rest his soul in peace. Ali Manzrui, when he's talking about richness in our culture and diversity, he means that diversity is the richness. Should not create what we call psychological boundaries that PLO Lumumba is talking about. Why should I, when I'm crossing over to Arusha, somebody asks me, where am Kenya or Tanzania? The issue is, are you an African, are you a Kenyan? My ID showing that I'm a Kenyan is enough to show that I'm an Eastern African dweller and an African. I should not do that. We've seen trade wars taking place between, the West and the East. The casualties now, they are the people in the global South. And the worst is that now we have got internal trade tariffs, wars within African countries. That there's a time that mayai, eggs, that Kenyans were buying from all the way from Tanzania, they were blocked where? At the border. And at some point, they banned the chicken because they were heading to Kenya. It's so sad, frustrating to see an African fighting another African. This psychological boundaries. I'm calling them psychological boundaries because we don't have such a thing like a boundary.
Yes.
It is, you know, in 1983, the Berlin Conference, when the, imperialists decided to put those boundaries, no African was called to the table. Leopold II, or the second, when he called that particular meeting, there's no single African king or maybe leader. It's a psychological boundary that we need to avoid. And this is what brings us to what you call cognitive ideas. And now we are in that reawakening, rewiring of African mind to fight for our own right. As Mzama Asante is saying, it's time for Africans to wake up. Yes. And it's more about advocacy and call to action.
All right, so let's just take a break from our discussion and listen to what Professor PLO Lumumba had to say about his wishes, his dreams about Africa.
He was reminding us that it can no longer be business as usual. And that is how, in 1999, a man whom we forget so very often, Muammar Gaddafi, convened Africans in Sirte in 1999 and said that the OAU must change. And that is how it became the AU, beginning with the adoption of the instruments of adoption in 2001 and the coming into being of the African Union in Durban, South Africa in the year 2002. The African Union is now anchored on Africa Agenda 2063 and Africa Continental Free Trade Area. And it is not lost on me that in the year 2013, when we were adopting Agenda 2063, the then chair of the African Union, Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma of South Africa, wrote a letter to Kwame Nkrumah, in which he said, in fact, that we apologize to you, Sajid. What you could see then is what has become true. So, ladies and gentlemen, so fellow Africans present in this assembly and Africans of goodwill and friends of goodwill, when you leave here, let it not be that you have just been part of a jamboree. When you leave here, go and search your souls. When you go to Cameroon, in Ambazonia, ask yourself what you can do. When you go to Ouagadougou, ask what you can do. When you go to N'Djamena in Chad or Hargeisa in Somaliland, ask what you can do. Because, as one Kenyan said in 1967, many times we in Africa are looking for a Moses with a rod and staff to part our Red Seas, to call pillars of fire, to hit rocks that water may come out, to summon manna from heaven. There is no such Moses. You are the Moses. Thomas Joseph Mboya said in 1967, we are waiting for a Superman. There is no Superman. There is no superwoman. We are the superwomen and supermen. So today, if you came here as a coward, please live as a man and woman of courage. Cowards die many times. I'm not asking any of you to be suicidal. I'm asking you to be courageous as we commemorate Africa Day. This battle is intergenerational. Play your part, Mwalimu Nyerere said. Play your part. Your children will play their part. Their children's children will play their part. And in the fullness of time. So when I look at Africa, I look forward to the day when from Cape Town in South Africa, on my way to Cairo, through Windhoek, through Lusaka, through Lilongwe, through Nairobi, through Dodoma to Bujumbura and Kigali and Juba and Khartoum. There will be no passport. I look forward to that. I look forward to the day when I move from West Africa.
Our key guest speaker, Professor PLO Lumumba, he has a dream for Africa. And that is exactly what he was actually telling these young people in the forum that we just attended. But Kinjabi, from that conversation, what are your key takeaways or take home that the young people must get, of course, in connection with Pan-Africanism, collaboration and innovation? Now that we have the digital affordances, we are enabled by the digital spaces to do everything and anything we say. And I kept on hearing him saying, it is now, and it's you, the young people, who are going to make change, nobody else.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Professor PLO Lumumba, a Pan-Africanist, a great lawyer that we really respect, and with his Afrocentric mind, he brought the idea of young people.
Yes.
Today, if we look at the potential of any continent that is rich in the world, forget about looking at any other. The main richness of any continent is in its human resource.
Human resource.
Yes, personnel. And this young population in Africa means a lot to the world.
Yes.
And that's why we are the future in real.
Yes.
And he says it's now for the African young people to take lead.
Yes.
To dare dream, to dare do things that the great grandfathers never dared. Maybe there's a place where I believe Africans slumbered, but now with the Gen Zs, they need to pay back. They're paying for the the sins of maybe their millennium father or maybe Gen what, X and Y.
Yes, the boomers,
the baby boomers who failed to do it.
Yes.
What am I talking about?
Yes.
They need to be broad enough in that they should face the realities that we're having today in Africa. The first thing that is undoing in Africa is disunity. We're working in silos. We need to desilolize Africa. Desilolization will help Africans to work together.
Yes.
And this is possible. We've seen African young people, for example, in Kenya. Sometimes you have that, that I call it sweet war online Twitter between Kenya and Nigerians. Today it was between Kenya and Tanzania.
And the other time it was Kenya and South Africa.
Yes.
I keep on seeing those
this
conversations.
tells you, if we can fight online, then it means we can agree, we cannot disagree in everything.
Tunaweza
tangamana pia.
Si kutengana kila wakati.
Utangamano unakuja kutokana na ile utengano umekuwepo. Kiswahili tunasema wagombanao ndio wapatanao.
Sasa tupatane wapi jamani? Kumbuka tunao wanzilishi kama Thomas Sankara.
Yes.
Akina Gaddafi, akina Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere.
Yes.
Wengi ambao walikuwa wameanzisha mipango mingi ya kuhakikisha kwamba Afrika iko na umoja. Lakini huu umoja jamani, tukiwa kwenye mitandao ya kijamii, kuna uwezekano kwamba tunaweza tangamana kweli?
Ni ukweli kuna uwezekano. Ikiwa leo hii vijana wa Kenyan youths will stand and say we are saying no to bad governance.
Yes.
It will motivate Ugandans to say no to bad governance. Burkina Faso is trending.
Yes.
He's a young man, only 36 or 37 years.
Yes.
Now he's the he's the topic of the entire Africa.
Yes.
If he's doing it, our young man, our brother called who? He's called who?
The young boy here in Kenya?
Yeah, no, in Burkina Faso.
Ibrahim. Yes.
He's doing it.
The youngest president.
Yes. Why not here in Africa, in
yes.
Kenya? Why not in Uganda?
Yes.
Bobby Wine can do it.
Yes.
In Tanzania, we have got young people who can do it.
Yes.
So it's not a must for leadership to be siloed among the elites. It's time young people take and break these silos and say, we are taking leadership and we are going to unite as Africans. That's why PLO is having a lot of trust in young people.
Yes.
Because most of the young people in Kenya, for example, Gen Z, where politics were always ethnicized or maybe ethnic, grounded, tribal, they said we are tribeless.
They said we are tribeless.
We're tribeless.
Yes.
and they came together and they worked together. Same thing we can say, we are countryless.
Yes.
We as Gen Zs
We
in
are
Africa.
we are boundaryless. We are
don't have boundary.
currentless.
Currency-less.
Yes.
We are tariffless,
Just-
and we do business.
So hold on your thought on that matter, because then we have organizations that need to be funding or rather supporting these young people's innovation, creativity, and so on. So now that we are celebrating AU, the foundation of AU,
Yes.
African Union, all right?
Yes.
How can it come, even support these young people from all the way to the grassroots, to the county level, to the national level, and even the entire Africa, because we're not just talking about countries, we're talking about the entire Africa. What kind of even digital initiatives, now that we know
You know, you're touching my heart. You're
there's
speaking to my
there's
heart.
more consumption on the digital.
When it comes to electing even AU chairman,
Yes,
was there any young person?
I didn't see any.
The political
The three-
elite class that has been, you know, they rule Kenya, they dominate the politics of Kenya. They
Yes.
feel we can dominate even Africa.
Yes,
They go again the other side.
even in
until they-
Madagascar as
Yes.
well, even from Ethiopia.
We didn't have any young person.
Mhm.
But if we have young people, a young person being elected, then we can say the African youth agenda will be pushed through the AU.
Yes.
But if we have people who want to silo power, to silo economic influence,
yes.
to silo social, you know, they want to maintain a certain status class
Yes.
for elitism in politics,
Yes.
we are not likely to have change.
Mhm.
So it's sad, yes, however much we have able leader. For example, in Kenya right now, I want to talk about this leader. This young man is Dr. Bernard William Chitunga,
Mhm.
the first young chancellor in Kenya. Only
for cooperative?
36 cooperative
Yeah,
university.
for cooperative university.
I've seen him growing. He's
Yeah.
very vocal.
Yeah.
And those are the things we're talking about. We want to see these youths. Now, to you, Professor Dr. Bernard
Yes.
Chitunga,
Yes.
I give you a challenge.
Uh-huh.
Take over, bring the change to
Uh-huh.
other universities also. We have such a people seated there.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
So of course, Kijabi, we can't sit here and complain
Yes.
and say we have challenges, we are not enabled, we are not facilitated. What is it that gives you hope about Africa's future?
One
Yes.
is rewiring of the young people in Africa.
You say rewiring.
Rewiring.
Yani to
Their brains have
tukazwe
rewired.
kidogo.
Wamekaza tayari, wameshagundua. You know,
Uh-huh.
you know, at first, if you look at what we call cognitive ideas and cognitive dissonance,
Yes.
young people out of that, they know what they need to be done.
Mhm.
They've started trying here and there.
Yes.
That's the one thing that is giving hope.
Mhm.
The second thing that is giving hope,
Mhm.
they are saying no to neo-colonialism
Yes.
by the political elite class.
Mhm. Wameshakataa.
Wamekataa,
Kwamba
wamekataa.
wazee waende nyumbani,
Watupatie nafasi.
sisi tushike usukani
Ndio
na
hivyo.
tusukume ile gurudumu, sio?
The only thing that I'm afraid of
Mhm.
is now when it comes to action.
Mhm.
Actualizing you know, you can walk.
Mhm.
Waswahili wanasema kuteka maji mtoni si kazi, kufikisha maji nyumbani ndio kazi.
Ndio kazi sasa.
Changamoto huwa heti Waswahili wanasema kwamba chungu vunjiki wapi? Mlangoni.
Pale mlangoni tu. Unapofika hivi ni unateleza.
All these
Ndio mbwa naye
calls,
inapiga kelele, unaanguka chini.
wimbi hili lote la vijana kuamka Afrika
Mhm.
linaweza kuwa limekuwepo,
Mhm.
lakini huenda tusifikie mwisho tamati yetu na lengo letu kwa sababu ya kitu kimoja.
Mhm.
Ikifikia wakati kwamba nitakumbushwa mimi ni Kikuyu,
Mhm.
mimi ni Mtanzania, mimi ni Mwafrika Kusini, mimi ni natoka Msumbiji, mimi ni Mwigbo.
Mhm.
When I start looking at that, I miss it. But when I say I'm identifying as an African youth,
Mhm. Mhm.
and I'll support an African youth, if I'm in West Africa, I'll support the one in East Africa.
Mhm.
And we say no to bad leadership,
Yes.
no to all this. We will be there.
Mhm.
We'll get there.
Mhm.
Thank you.
What is it that could be your parting shot? Because you know we can sit here and talk about Africa, and I know you're very passionate about this, and it's something that actually is very closer to your heart, as it is to my heart as well. But of course, we will be having other episodes where we are going to discuss more and more about Africa. But this was a very special episode where we are able to discuss about Africa Day, and it's coming on 25th.
Yes.
But of course, we had to start this conversation early in advance. But we are happy to be Africans. We are so bold enough to speak about our languages, our culture. But as we wind up, as we wrap up this session, what is it that you want to speak to that young person? Like PLO said, it's all about having a boundaryless country and nation and United States of Africa. It's all about having a currency that he actually called Afro currency for that matter, because we didn't have really a correct name, okay? But when is that time that we shall be having such kind of an experience? And please, just even me, talk to me and tell me what I ought to do.
It's time to walk the talk. We have to walk the talk. Enough is enough. We do a lot of talking. Africa is good in making policies. Africa is good coming up with policy frameworks. When it comes to actualizing, we miss out. Young people, we are different. Gen Zs, we work different. You as a young African man and woman, the African nation, African continent is watching you, is looking up to you. If you have to do African scholarship, do research in African culture. If you have to do something about digital, about Africa, do it in every space you are taking. Occupy it with an African mind. Speak like an African mind. Chukua lugha yako, talk to your language. If you are an Igbo, Hausa, Yoruba, speak in that language. Don't be shy talking about your language. Don't be shy talking about your culture. Don't be shy talking about your heritage. It's you to make Africa to be somewhere and take the role of leadership. And that's how we bring change in Africa.
That is a very powerful parting shot from Kinjabi and Kijabi.
Yeah, thank you.
Asante sana kwa kuja kwenye hiki kipindi ambacho umekifanya kimekuwa chako kwa kweli.
Asante, nashukuru bana, inshallah natumai kwamba nyinyi wa Afrika, vijana wa Kiafrika, kikao ni hiki hapa.
All right.
This is where we all talk about African issues, and this is where our brother who is our guide will always take us to.
Yes.
Afrocentrism.
Kumaanisha mimi ninazungumza tu kwa kidogo tu, lakini kwa upana yeye ndiye amezungumza, sio? Na naamini kwamba mmechukulia maanani yale ambayo ameyazungumzia. And this actually wraps up this very special episode as we celebrate Africa Day. We have had a lot of engagements, a lot of reflections, a lot of concerns about what we ought to do. And of course, this parting shot together with Professor PLO Lumumba's parting shot is that Africa is not just a place. It's a people, all right? It is you, every generation, across all nations, across Africa, and everybody who loves Africa, where we need to come together and do something for Africa. Just embrace the culture that we have, embrace our languages, embrace who we are. And of course, we are going to have more and many other conversations about Africa, and this is where we only have to dissect, engage, delve deeper into why you should be proud of being an African. Not just here in Africa, but even the diasporians. Until next time, my name is Masaki Magak. Make sure you share this conversation everywhere and anywhere. And if you actually want to come and engage with us, please, you can see our social media platforms and comment on our YouTube channel so that we can have these brilliant discussions now and many other episodes. Kwaheri ya kuonana.
Asante sana.